I appreciate you. Let me just grab a signature if you don't mind there.
A Mississippi man says he got more than a pizza from his Oxford Pizza Hut delivery driver on June 25th, 2023. Jamarius Archie opened his door to receive his order when the white driver called him a racial slur. Take a listen.
Pizza Hut, how you doing? Good, man. Here we go. Appreciate you. Let me just grab a signature if you don't mind there. All paid up.
In case you missed it, we will play it again.
Pizza Hut, how you doing? Good, man. Here we go. Appreciate you. Let me just grab a signature if you don't mind there. All paid up.
Joining me from Jackson, Mississippi is attorney Carlos Moore. Mr. Moore, thank you so much for being here tonight. I just got to start with, what in the world? I almost wanted to play it a third time. Can you please tell us and help us process what we just saw? Was that real?
It was real. And like you, I could not believe my ears. I mean, this happened in 2023 in Oxford, Mississippi. This young African-American man ordered a pizza in a nice neighborhood, and it was just a normal day, and he never could have expected to be called the N-word just for ordering a pizza.
And what was, we read the statement that you posted, but, knowing your client, what was his reaction after the fact? Because it seems like such a natural transaction, but it just seems like kind of after the fact, it seems like, whoa, wait a minute, what just happened? Like, how did he process what he experienced?
Yes, it was very difficult to process. He's undergoing counseling now for what he endured, but it caught him off guard. I mean, most people, had they had any kind of forewarning, knew exactly what he said when he said it and processed it immediately, they probably would have stolen the pizza driver. But I mean, he was so shocked, he ran to his video surveillance to run it back. He had to run it back again to make sure he had heard what he heard. He showed it to his wife, and they agreed there was nothing wrong with his ears. He had been called the N-word.
Yeah, I had to double check my ears a couple of times as well. And has there been a response I want to bring my panel in shortly, but has there been a response from Pizza Hut about how they're looking at handling the situation to date since this happened last summer?
Evidently, Pizza Hut has ratified this comment. The man is still a delivery driver in Oxford, Mississippi, and he is still free to roam the streets and deliver pizzas and call people the N-word at will. And so this is very disappointing.
Still wow, that was not something I was expecting to hear. I have so many other questions, but I want to bring in my panel to share some of their thoughts on this as well. I'm going to bring in Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist and author out of Washington, D.C., as well as Gavin Reynolds, contributor to The Root and former speechwriter to Vice President Kamala Harris. Dr. Malveaux, I want to turn the first question over to you.
I don't even know what to say. My mom was the first one of two. Ole Miss hired two African Americans in 1974, and my mom was one of the two in the School of Social Work. And I had occasion to visit Oxford, where the racism is just it's casual. I mean, while that is egregious, it's not unexpected. One of my Oxford story is I went to see my mom. I flew in, took the putt-putt from Memphis to Oxford, and the driver would not take me. This was 1975 because I had a dashiki on. And he called me in and da-da. And I called my mom saying, Mommy, the guy will not give me a ride. She said, I'll send somebody to get you. She said, what do you have on? I said, a dashiki, what do I wear every day? And she said, I should have told you to put a T-shirt on. She said, the racism here is crazy. So apparently a lot has not changed. The casual use of the N-word is Mississippi. You know, in Wakanda, I'm doing this research on lynching. Mississippi had, I don't know if they're number one or number two in the number of lynchings, but I want to ask Brother Attorney, this seems so casual. What are you actually suing for dollar-wise, and what kind of statute will protect your client?
We did not name a monetary amount my client continues to treat, and we just want justice. And so we believe that a reasonable jury will come up with an amount should we get to trial. And it's just so outrageous, and he did it so nonchalantly. I guess he does it often, but he just casually called him the N-word and thought it was acceptable. And I'm just shocked that Pizza Hut has basically ratified this action and still employs this young man, the delivery driver.
Thank you. Gavin, your question.
Yeah, brother, thank you for joining us, and thank you for what you're doing on behalf of your client. Omokongo, I'm like you. I had to run that back like 3, 4, 5 times. I played it with one of my friends, and I was like, "Are you hearing this?" Yeah. So I guess my question for you, sir, is, I imagine and you might not be able to answer this question, but I'm just so curious, like, what went down right after this took place? Was the rest of the conversation? Was there any additional conversing between the two? And again, I understand you might not be able to answer that directly, but just help us contextualize sort of what happened immediately after we heard that comment, because the video sort of cuts off rather abruptly.
Yes, my client stayed cool. He is a law-abiding citizen of Mississippi. He really couldn't believe his ears, and so he wanted to double check. And so he let the man go ahead and leave after he signed the receipt, and then he went and shared what just happened with his wife. And they went to the video doorbell system and watched the video and listened to it, and they confirmed he had heard what he heard. And so that's when he contacted me, and we have tried to settle this out of court with Pizza Hut, but they have been non-responsive until we filed the lawsuit, and they still have not taken the appropriate action to resolve this matter.
And so that leads me to my next question, Mr. Moore, because we're talking June, we're coming up, it's almost a year now, and you filed this lawsuit. And I know there's so much you can say publicly to everybody, but has Pizza Hut been in any communication with you whatsoever about this incident? Or are they just thinking that you're going to go away?
I've spoken with the attorney for the institution for Pizza Hut, but they have not done anything still to resolve this matter. And so we're continuing to fight, and we will take it all the way to trial. This is unacceptable, and you cannot just go around calling people the N-word, even in Mississippi. I am just appalled. My client is appalled, and we are appalled that Pizza Hut has done nothing. But we do believe a good citizen jury will give us justice.
And my last question for you, just in terms of the climate that we're living into now, today with so much going on, it just seems like there's a certain level of comfort that people have just addressing us in a particular way. Has that added to the level of concern and fear that your clients have experienced after this incident?
Yes, my client has a young family, a wife and a child, that he's afraid to even give interviews. He's in Oxford, Mississippi. He does not want his business jeopardized. Wow. He fears for his safety. I mean, this is the same city where last week they were taunting a black woman, calling her Lizzo and making monkey noises. This is in Oxford, Mississippi. Oxford continues to burn. Mississippi is still on fire.
Yes, and that's definitely a story that we're getting to actually later today as well. Well, I thank you for your courage and your client and his family for their courage as well. And please continue to keep us updated on what's going on with this trial.
Will do.
Thank you.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Folks, another shameful story of police action, this time out of Florida. A senior airman, a black Air Force senior airman, has been shot and killed by Florida Sheriff's deputies. 23-year-old senior airman Roger Fortson was fatally shot on May 3rd after the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office burst into his home. Reports said the deputy was responding to a call about a disturbance in progress and reacted in self-defense after seeing Fortson with a gun. But family attorney Ben Crump says the officers were at the wrong address and did not identify himself when knocking on the door. Fortson, reportedly on the phone, retrieved his gun when he did not see anyone outside. But the knocking continued. Crump and Roger's family viewed the body cam footage today. Ben Crump joins us right now. Ben, so what the heck happened here? What were they even executing? Was a disturbance?
Roland, it's unbelievable. This young man was a model United States member of the armed forces. He has no criminal history in his background. He was on the phone with his girlfriend on FaceTime the whole time leading up to this. The family is adamant. Everything that we know about this case tells us they went to the wrong apartment. And when you see once that door opened, he told him to step back. Roger was very, very respectful of law enforcement. He stepped back in a split second, Roland. In a split second. He shot him 6 times. And what is being left out of this argument, out of this case, is they keep saying, well, he had a gun when he came to the door. Well, the reality is, President, they didn't hear the police identify themselves. He said who it is, and nobody identified himself based on what the girlfriend said, and she's going to do her own press conference, so it's not lost in any translation. But when he saw a black man with a gun, even though he was a law-abiding citizen with a registered license to carry a weapon, Second Amendment rights, that police lit him up. And right after he shot him, he then said while he was on the ground, toss the gun. He didn't give any verbal commands to drop the gun and put your hands in the air when he came open that door. And that's what's troubling, Roland. They continue to try to justify the unjustified killings, even our best young people.
Did they knock down the door, or did Fortune open the door?
The video shows it opens in less than a second. He then began shooting.
So wait a minute.
Hit him 6 times.
So wait a minute. Fortune opens the door. And instead of the officer saying, come out with your hands up, the moment he opens the door, the officer starts firing.
Roland, when you see this video, you got Roland. I mean, it is deplorable when you look at how fast he took this young man's life. And this young man was outstanding in every way. He was in special ops, Roland. He had did a tour of duty. He was taking care of his mother and was the hero to his little 10-year-old sister and 16-year-old brother. In fact, there's a photo we'll get to you. He was so proud of being in the United States Air Force. He had an airman's uniform on, and he bought his 9-year-old little sister at the time airman's uniform, and it's so adorable because she is saluting him. And this is the type of person we had that they are trying to make out to be the bad guy. He wasn't the bad guy. He was a good guy.
Questions from the panel, Reese?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Crump, for bringing attention to this case. What about the neighbor that supposedly led the police to Mr. Forston's door? What have they said, if anything, about the situation?
You're brilliant, Miss Reese, because you get to the crux of the matter. When you watch the video, and you listen to her describe what's going on and that it's 1401, well, the reality is he is in that apartment by himself on FaceTime with his girlfriend with his little dog. There is no domestic disturbance. They went to the wrong apartment, and God help that leasing agent at the apartment if she's the person who sent them to the wrong apartment, because that is the question. Were they at the right apartment? But even beyond that, you watch that video, I mean, it has so many troubling questions that become apparent. Number one, why didn't he give verbal commands to put down the weapon, put your hands up versus just unloading on him. Number two, when he's on the ground, he then gives the command, toss your weapon. And Roger couldn't have been more respectful of authority. He said, I did. And then when you look at his girlfriend's FaceTime video, he's saying, I can't breathe. And the officer yelling, stop moving, stop moving. And he's like, I can't breathe. And they don't offer him any medical assistance. And you watch this 23-year-old American patriot die right before our eyes.
Lauren.
Ben, it's Lauren Burke. Do you know, is there anything you can talk about with regard to the police officer, the age of the cop, any prior record of abuse, or the time on the force? Any experience at that address before?
Miss Lauren, we don't have any information about the cop. Obviously, they want to try to assassinate his character because the first statement that came out from them was they didn't mention he was a military officer or anything. This is in Fort Walton, Florida, where Eglin Air Force Base is at. It's full of military people. They didn't want to say that. They said officer responding to a domestic dispute kills a armed citizen, in self-defense. Well, the issue is you came to his apartment. He had every right to have a gun. This is Florida, for God's sakes. Every citizen is encouraged to have a firearm. He is an officer who is militarily trained. He's one of the people we want to have guns. He's responsible. He's very diplomatic. He's very a rule follower. I mean, he was the person who you would say, if you're going to be a gun owner, how about we have that guy who's trained to use firearms? And so, but when he had that gun, they tried to say, oh, it was self-defense. And it suggested, Lauren, that he did something bad, that he was a criminal or something, when there was nothing further from the truth. The officer went to the wrong apartment.
Thanks, man.
This right here, give me 1 second. I'm pulling it up. Give me 1 second. And I'm going to advance this because, folks, this is the body cam footage. I'll talk over, so go to the body cam footage. This is the deputy arriving at the scene. The body cam footage was released publicly just 3 hours ago, folks. And so
listen closely, Roland.
All right, got it, folks. Turn the audio up. We'll stop talking. Turn the audio up. Go.
Howdy, sir.
What's going on?
I'm not sure. I just was told to let her know if you guys come by.
Okay.
So I'm going to give her a quick call and let you guys know. Let her know.
So there was a fight going on or something?
I was not present for that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are they fighting or something?
Saying that it happens frequently.
Okay.
But this time it sounded like it was getting out of hand.
Okay, which store?
So I'm not sure. 2 weeks ago, I was walking by their apartment, basically, on this side, and I was hearing someone yell, like, shut the f*** up, like, you stupid B-word and all this other stuff, and I heard a slap, like, right after it, but I wasn't sure where it came from, and I couldn't call, I didn't want to call the police, and,
Which room is it?
1401.
1401, okay.
1401. But the girl sounded scared, the one that called. She said, she was like, it sounds like it's getting really out of hand.
So it's number 4.
Hey, Ben, she said 1401. Was that Fortune's apartment number?
It's not.
It was, yeah.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, got it.
She said she wasn't sure initially where the unit was at, but then she said 1401.
312 and 111. Sheriff's office, open the door! Sheriff's office, open the door! Step out. Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! 312, shots fired. Suspect down. Do not move! 312, get EMS my location.
Unbelievable.
Oh, all right. Now let me. That's the end of the body cam video there. I mean, absolutely, Ben. No warning. Door barely opens. Barely opens.
Didn't tell them to drop their weapon. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Didn't tell them to drop their weapon. He didn't give the verbal command, drop the weapon, put your hands up, nothing. Said step back. Roger was stepping back, never raised the weapon.
Right.
It was in his right hand. And he just unloaded on him, Roland Martin.
At no point in this did he ever give the order to drop the weapon, nothing. It was like literally that door opened, he saw a black man with a gun and he fired. And as you said, we're in Florida. You can have a gun in your home.
Yep. Hey, Roland, it's so deep. When you look at him on the ground and he start giving the commands after he's been shot, I mean, Roger's even complying then. He says, toss the weapon, and he says, I tossed it. I mean, he couldn't have been more compliant, but it didn't matter because for whatever reason, I think we all know the reason, when he saw that gun in his hand, he just said, bad guy. And Roger was...
Damn.
Yeah, nothing in his record. It's unblemished. He was a decorated airman. He was in special ops. I mean, he was doing everything right.
Greg Carr.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you, Brother Crump. I wasn't aware that black people are encouraged in Florida to be armed. In fact, I think we should probably stop talking about a right to be armed. There is no right to be anything in the United States of America when you're black. Not really. At least if the law means more than just some words on a page. But I want to ask you about the question. The question I have to ask is, what is the cost to this struggle against these murderers for us to continue to frame the victims as good as opposed to bad people when no one should be executed by the hunter? From what I've read, the hunter has been put on administrative leave, probably paid. The deputy hunter, the one who strode so confidently to the door and as an accessory before the fact named the apartment 1401, certainly won't be punished. She's a deputy cop, as are all people who do this kind of thing. But what's the strategic value of us mounting a defense of someone as a good person, as if there is anyone who deserves to be murdered by these murderers? Is there some concession? And then does the burden then shift from the killers to the victims when we start talking about good people as opposed to bad people? Should it matter, and why or why not?
It shouldn't matter, but unfortunately, we live in America where race is always an issue, and they try to criminalize our race. They will assassinate our character after they assassinate us, and that's what they're attempting to do. He tried to say self-defense. It reminds you of Botham Jean in Dallas, Texas, when the policewoman went to the wrong apartment and killed him. And they're talking about I was in fear of my life, self-defense. It's the same notion that it doesn't matter how good the black person is. They still try to justify the unjustifiable killings of our people. It happens over and over. Atiana Jefferson, I mean, we can just go down the list. And it's all these black people who are in their own home, in the sanctity of their own dwelling, their castle, and their sanctuary, Breonna Taylor. But yet they all get killed and then they all try to justify it. And so it shouldn't matter whether they have an unblemished record or not. But we know, without a shadow of a doubt, if he would have had a checkered past, that's all we would have heard about from the victim. We still won't know anything about this killer officer. We won't hear one word about his past.
Ben Crump, we hate to have you on for these type of stories, and we hate to have to show those videos. But the reality is we're left with no choice because this is what happens to us all too often. We will keep on this case, and we will certainly see what is next.
Hey, thank you, Roland Martin. Thank you for covering our stories.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Ben.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Trump, he pardoned Lil Wayne, Kodak Black. He pardoned one of the co-founders of Death Row, which Snoop Dogg was very interested in getting, and we know exactly what that was all about. And I'm sitting here, looking at a lot of these people like, yeah, see, that's right, Trump ride for black folks, and I'm sitting there going, oh, so y'all are going to ignore all the rest of that stuff? You'll know everything else? I love how folk just, and then again, when you start talking about facts, in fact, let me see, which phone do I have it on? So the Trump folk, Greg, have been running, let me do this here. Let me put it on this iPad. I got it on one phone. So the Trump folk have been running a radio ad on Detroit radio stations. And I want to play this ad because I know both of y'all need some additional laughter in your lives on today. And so, because if y'all got a kick out of that Dana Bash commentary, wait until y'all hear this commercial here. Give me a second. I'm airdropping it to my iPad because I think y'all gonna find this to be really, really, really interesting. So let me go ahead and get this thing queued up. So here we go.
Hi, I'm a volunteer for Joe Biden. Are you registered to vote?
Yeah, I voted for Biden last time.
That's great.
Really? Have you looked around? Everything costs more. Food, gas, housing. We're struggling to pay our bills.
Okay, but what about everything he's done to protect illegal immigrants?
Protect them? Did you see that Biden's paying rent for illegals now? They get handouts and we pay for all of it. And Biden's letting Mexican cartels flood our neighborhoods with murderers and drugs.
Well, Biden's done a ton to stop transgender discrimination.
Transgender discrimination? Stopping men from using girls' bathrooms isn't discrimination. Keeping men out of girls' sports and out of girls' locker rooms is just common sense.
So Biden can still count on your vote, right?
Not this time. Trump will stop the sexualization of our children and declare war on the cartels. I'm voting for Donald Trump. Make America Great Again, Inc. paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Megapack.com.
So Trump is going to stop the sexualization of children. Tell it to the parents of kids who were Jeffrey Epstein. And so you see what he's doing there, Reese. How he is trying to use transgender issue and illegal immigration, weaponizing against black people.
It's fucking brilliant, and it could work. It's unfortunate that you could use such issues like that to distract people from the fact that Trump said he wants to give cops immunity. They can shoot the hell out of black people, stop and frisk, whatever, and there aren't going to be any consequences. About the fact that he wants to strip the same way he wants to get rid of illegals, so-called illegals, he gonna strip your ass of your citizenship too. But it works. There's a reason why he's running these ads and targeting the folks that he's targeting. It aligns with the disinformation campaign that we've seen targeting black people all throughout social media. There are 0% of athletes are trans, but it's one of the main talking points that you hear from Republicans. And it's a talking point that resonates with a lot of black people as well. So it's smart. I mean, I wish the Democrats had some shit like that. I don't know. We don't have nothing. We try to do the right thing, except for on Palestine. Aside from that and a couple other shit, we try to do the right thing. So we don't have anything like that we can really sell and say, well, look at what the trans people are getting. Look at what the Asians is getting. Look at what we don't have those same kind of issues. So they're playing the cards that they're dealt. And if we can't see through it, and if we want to vote against our interests to stop these imaginary villains, then, hey, we get the government that we deserve.
Actually, I think you do have it. I think you do have it, Greg, because I think if you're Democrats, if you run an ad saying, hey, I know you really want student loan debt relief, but are you going to support Trump, who wants to give tax breaks to people who have private planes and yachts? Do you own one? You can ask that question. Or you can run the audio of Trump saying, hey, a lot of you rich people supported me, and guess what? You did great when I was president, and you're going to do better when I'm president again. I would run that sucker. I damn sure run that sucker against him. I would damn sure use the audio of him calling Colin Kaepernick a son of a bitch. Oh, I absolutely would use that one. And then I would definitely run ads on the gospel stations talking about 2 Corinthians. See, I would absolutely use. So they have the. But see, again, here's what I think the difference between. And I'm gonna go back to that comment from Michelle Obama. When they go low, we go high. Democrats love.
I know she hates that she said that now because she get dragged every time.
Democrats love to go high.
They do.
No. You got the like I did a podcast with Michael Steele. I said, they hit your ass in the knees. I said, you hit their ass in the shins. If they hit your ass in the ankles, you hit their ass on the bottom of their feet. No, you got to understand you are in a fight that has no rules because your opponent doesn't believe in rules.
Correct.
That's true.
Your opponent does not believe in rules. There is no bottom. And so what you got to do is you got to be willing to go there and say, cool, you want to get in the mud? Let's go. Let's get in the mud. I would absolutely revive that Entertainment Tonight or Access Hollywood or whatever the hell tape it was. I would see every foul thing he said. I would be running ads on black radio stations about the nasty stuff he said about Maxine Waters and when John Kelly condemned Frederica Wilson. Oh, hell yes, I would. Absolutely, I would. At every single damn moment. Every black person, every black woman he attacked, it'll be a whole new commercial against him. But Democrats want to play nice and fair, and
that's the problem. I'm telling you.
Can we all get along, Greg? That ain't how you win. You got to rip his damn heart out. That's what you got to do.
No, it's true. Of course. I mean, yes. Of course, it's true. It's true. It is true, and it's a difficult moment. Roland, I was talking with a brother the other day who works at one of the K Street think tanks. And he said, a lot of people think it's Democrat versus Republican, but when it comes to things like foreign policy, it's about, they all pretty much think the same. And he said, even domestically, it's about power. We're seeing the power of the Israel lobby now. Not just clowns like Richie Torres, who is wholly owned subsidiary of AIPAC, but others in this overwhelming majority that voted for this anti-Semitism bill in the federal legislature the other day, which is terrifying. This is really, Dana Bash wants to talk about the 1930s. Let's talk about it, Dana. Let's talk about it. But let's talk about it very seriously. Remember, Hitler won an election in Germany in the 30s. Don't play with this, because, see, we're the ones who are going to bear the brunt. But there's a reason why Donald Trump pardons his hip-hop friends, because it feeds the idea of excess and material accumulation. And, remember that Donald Trump was popular in a segment of hip-hop before he even went on The Apprentice. I mean, this is the idea of pop culture. And you're right. I mean, Reese just said it. You said it. This man knows how to play the PR game. We're living in an era now of deep fakes. I mean, Drake had to drop his comeback against Kendrick because he had Tupac's voice on there. So you can't tell what's real and what's not. Again, that's why journalism is so important right now. But when you start talking about political education, the slow accretive work, what's going on a lot of these college campuses right now, including the one I was on last night, watching these Howard students sit and connect Congo and the Sudan and the fight for 15 and what's going on in Palestine, talking about foreign and domestic policy. That is not the interest of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party got donors too. And so trying to play this game in a situation where the other side has no rules, they have a bought and paid for Supreme Court that is going to try to push this man past his trial so that he won't be convicted of anything. He can get in and dismiss the federal lawsuit if he can get at it. We have a national military budget swallowing everything whole and pumping, as you said, Reese, billions into an attempt at ethnic cleansing. But our young people and our people generally, you know why they won't fight? When you try to put a message out and say, did you get any money? The billionaires did. It's because in this country, everybody has been brainwashed into thinking that they're going to be a billionaire one day. Exactly. And so the idea is that Donald Trump fights for us, because one day I'm going to be a billionaire and I don't want those people to take my money either. Meanwhile, you're not even going to be able to tweet that or text that or put it on the gram or put it on TikTok because your damn internet going to be gone because you got not two pennies to run together and they're not going to pass a bill to extend the money that came from the Reconstruction Act so that you can even get on the damn phone to tweet about how you was going to be a billionaire. Propaganda is how fascism maintains and extends its authority. This is what we are facing right now. This, as I said, we know what's going to happen. The only question is, are we going to take enough time? And this is why Black Star Network is so important, to educate ourselves to see what is coming so that we can stop it. Because it's not a mystery about what's going to happen. It's happening right now. These cops, these punk-ass cops, half of them, 3/4 of them, however many of them, without college degrees, taking the opportunity to take their little manhood between their tweezer fingers and go beat up a bunch of children because they're loving it, sitting on horses, strapped in like they fight in the military. These punks are the same ones that were in the Know-Nothing Party in the 19th century. They were the ones who wanted to be in the Hitler Youth, but since they couldn't, did the America First stuff in that same 1930s Dana Bash. This is fascism. And our people worried about rap beefs, who's going to be on the Shade Room, and not supporting the Black Star Network in a moment when we can get all of that momentum if we can simply take our time, keep putting this message out, and touch each other in the way that Reverend Barber laid out. This is a fight, not a fight for America, not a fight for foreign policy or domestic policy. This is a fight literally for survival, for human survival. We're on the brink, and we got to do something about it, and this is part of that work.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Massive donation. It is one of the largest ever given to an HBCU. It was $237 million, courtesy of Gregory Jerami and the Isaac Batterson VII Family Trust. Now again, a $237 million donation that came out of nowhere. Jerami has no relationship with Florida A&M. He didn't graduate from there, had no family graduated from there. And so folks were shocked and stunned. This would take the endowment of Florida A&M to almost $400 million, making it the third largest endowment behind Howard University as well as Spelman. Well, after this was the case, people were asking, who is this guy? Where does money come from? What does he do? And on and on and on. And so as a result, it's been lots of stuff. The latest development is that the Florida A&M vice chair of the board has demanded an emergency public meeting to address this particular issue. He says that there have been a lot of questions that have been raised. You've got folks out there who are posting all sorts of information with regards to this man. There are people who are suggesting that he may not be real, that this may become an embarrassment to Florida A&M. Apparently, the Board of Trustees was not aware of this donation until the announcement was made. Now, Jerami, what he did, he actually he announced that there was a stock transfer. The stock transfer has been in place for more than a month. He says that Florida A&M has the money. It's already been there. And so that was one of the things that he said. Now, Florida A&M, as a result of the concerns that have been raised by a number of people, the Florida A&M board, they actually the communication department released, the Florida A&M communication staff released this statement. Florida A&M University is still extremely excited about Mr. Gregory Jerami's historic announcement yesterday, the Isaac Batterson Family Seventh Trust. We are fully aware of the skepticism that sometimes comes with such a large gift. As expected, some individuals in the public are and will continue researching Mr. Jerami. Please know that FAMU has done its due diligence when it comes to this matter. Additionally, Mr. Jerami has and continues to do his own due diligence on things that have been and are happening at FAMU. While a non-disclosure agreement we signed prevents us from disclosing many details, as was reported on May 4th, Mr. Jerami transferred $237,750,000 worth of stocks into our account last month. Mr. Jerami's $237,750 stock transfer was received in the same manner in which we have accepted all other stocks donated to the university through the FAMU Foundation, Inc. As with any non-cash gift received, such as cryptocurrency, real estate, and stocks, it will be converted to cash and recorded appropriately. Again, we greatly appreciate Mr. Jerami's and the Isaac Batterson Family Seventh Trust generosity. Our students will be true beneficiaries of their most generous contribution. Now, this has been lots and lots of focus because literally this brother has come out of nowhere. They organized. What they did was they actually organized a massive meeting today. And I was going through it earlier today. It was a press call. The press call, folks, was interesting because it had Jerami on it. It had the university folks. But here's where I'm still confused, and maybe y'all can help me. How does the board not know about such a gift? I'm confused. Now, Florida A&M has said there was a non-disclosure agreement. I get that. But if you're the university president, you have a board of trustees. Surely you alert them of this. Florida A&M is also a public university. So even though there's a non-disclosure agreement, you still are a public university. So now, not sure who the gift went to. So there's all sorts of questions here that have arisen here. And I get it. Larry, I totally understand why people will be freaking out because you ain't got somebody black just don't wake up and give away $237.75 million and not go, you giving that much away and you got some left? So I understand the skepticism in Florida. And what really struck me, though, was when this vice chair of the board said he didn't know until the announcement was made on Saturday.
So, Roland, let's unpack this. This is particularly for the communications and development offices at FAMU. So let me start off by saying, I live in a state. I know a number of prominent, successful FAMU alum who are obviously very concerned about what's happened here the last couple of days. So, Roland, I also fortunately serve as chairman of a board of HBCU Foundation. So this story in particular is very interesting to me because often, foundations, we take in amounts of money, have an MOU with universities, and we take in amounts of money, sometimes large donations. So the non-disclosure agreement is one of the things that really is a red flag for me. I'm not really quite sure why do we have an NDA with this individual, but I think that there's some other deeper issues in terms of the communications issue you highlighted. The board has to always know if there's someone donates $1 million or $2 million, the board's going to have to be notified. Donating $250 million and the members of the board don't know about it and they find about it like everyone else, heads are going to roll when it comes to this particular issue. And I have questions for the people in the development office. I mean, this is obviously a significant amount of money and, they said the transfer went through. But one of the things I want to highlight, and like I said, my work when I'm chairing the foundation board is usually when people make, large donations, they sign some kind of letter of understanding, and they don't usually donate that kind of money in one transfer. There's usually some kind of corpus that may be 3, 5, 10% a percentage of that overall allotment that they will give, kind of lay the foundation, and then in letter of understanding, it outlines over the next 3, 5, 10 years how much money we're going to donate. I don't even think we've seen people like Michael Bloomberg, who's given hundreds of millions of dollars to Johns Hopkins, give up $250 million, and he's a billionaire in one transfer. So I'm assuming that there's going to be some kind of investigation, certainly an audit, to kind of figure out. It appears this gentleman has a history, a checkered history, but certainly if this amount of money, this transfer is accurate, it's helpful and it's outstanding for FAMU. But the idea that members of the board of trustees did not know about this is going to be a problem for the president, the development office, and the folks who are working in communication.
Randy, this story was posted about an hour ago on the Tallahassee Democrat website. And in this story, Gregory Jerami, who's 30 years old, is quoted in this. He said the stocks have been held by the university for over a month now, so I don't know where the confusion or the skepticism would be since it's already in a financial account with the university. Now, he's a 30-year-old hemp farmer, investor, and entrepreneur. And so, again, now he previously had announced he was going to give a $95 million transformational gift to Coastal Carolina University, but that fell through as well. And so, again, you see here FAMU's communications office set up a late afternoon online news conference Monday afternoon with Jerami, founder of the Batterson Farms Corporation, to clear up miscommunicated information and set the record straight on the donation. And this news conference took place with the VP of Alumni Affairs, Carmen Cummings, the VP for University Advancement, Shanta Friday Stroud, who's also executive director of the FAMU Foundation, as well, and was organized for the Tallahassee Democrat, Bloomberg, and the Inside Higher Ed. Sure would have been nice to have some black-owned media on that call as opposed to having white media, Randy. But in this particular call here, again, university, it says here, but university officials who have said they are bound by a non-disclosure agreement on details of the donation left it largely up to Jerami to answer questions.
Yeah, the lack of transparency definitely just is a red flag. We as a community are already usually suspicious. Anything with money, we're going to say the Illuminati or something has something to do with it. But when you have a young man who's only 30 years old, giving $250 million to a university, no one has ever heard of him, it's kind of suspect. I don't understand how a decision is made at an HBCU or any high institution of higher learning without the board of trustees being involved in that. That's somewhat concerning. And also that there was an NDA to cover what don't they want, or what doesn't he want to be disclosed. And of course, the last two, he tried to give donations to two other universities and the deal fell through. So I understand people's concerns. Of course, as a strong proponent of HBCUs and a graduate of one, I am praying that it is absolutely legit and FAMU gets many blessings from the money, but I understand the concern.
Yeah, it's real. So the bottom line is people are raising the issues. And so, again, go back to the Tallahassee Democrat story. By Tuesday afternoon, the vice chair of Florida A&M's University Board of Trustees was calling on FAMU President Larry Robinson and Board Chair Christian Harper to convene a public emergency meeting for the university community to learn more about this donation. So we'll see what happens next. But again, I'm like you. People are asking, okay, it's stocks. What kind of stocks? In what companies? Is it legit? So listen, a lot of questions. And so we certainly will wait to see what happens next.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
A few moments ago, the Florida A&M Board of Trustees meeting ended where they were discussing this multi-million-dollar donation from a Gregory Jerami and the Isaac Batterson the Seventh Family Trust. The check presentation took place this weekend where he also was the commencement speaker. It is the largest donation given to Florida A&M and certainly one of the largest to an HBCU in history. The board had an emergency meeting today because there have been so many questions surrounding this particular gift. This here was the video of Florida A&M released on social media about this donation. Turn the audio up, please.
And sign this agreement on behalf of Florida A&M University, the Jerami Family Foundation.
The $237 million gift is more than the size of the FAMU endowment value and represents one of the largest single personal donations to a historically Black college and university.
To be able to give back to HBCU at this level is important to me. To be able to choose, for our foundation, to be able to choose a university where our legacy will continue and will be the most impactful for generations and generations to come. That is the most important thing to our foundation and us.
President Dr. Larry Robinson says this donation will have a far-reaching impact on the academics and the athletics programs at Florida A&M University.
Well, we are extremely grateful and ecstatic about this game-changing donation to Florida A&M University.
Jerami is the founder of Batterson Farms Corporation and a champion of sustainable agriculture and biodegradable hemp products in Texas. For Florida A&M University, I'm Giovanni Hampton.
All right, folks. Well, after that news came out, it took everyone by surprise. So folks began to ask themselves the question, who is this guy? Who is Gregory Jerami? Well, Jarrell Blakely penned an op-ed in Education Newsflash called "For the Love of Money, Has FAMU Been Fooled?" He's been posting a number of different things on social media about Gregory Jerami, and these are questions that, frankly, were not answered in today's board meeting. Jeremy joins us from Indianapolis. So glad to have joins from Indianapolis. So Jarrell, I listened to about an hour of the board meeting. I had to go live on the show. And so I'm listening to this conversation, and they had the company on that handles investments for Florida A&M, and they were talking about paperwork, things along those lines. So basically, those guys did not vet any of this. And so then I had to jump off right when they had the official on talking about the vetting process and how this Jerami reached out to them, how they began to have conversations with him. He wanted to make a donation to the school. After the Spelman donation was announced, $100 million, they said, well, he wanted to increase his offer. Then they began to talk about this courtship. So basically, let's just, for everybody who doesn't understand, FAMU has not gotten any money. There's actually no money. So this $237 million number that people are hearing, this number, is not a real number. What he has given them is stock certificates in this privately held company where he has assigned the value of these stocks to be $237 million. And what they did was, so he assigned, if I'm correct, a $15.85 price per share, and he's given Florida A&M University 15 million shares in this company. But it's a private company. So the reality is, it's not a publicly traded company right now. So until there's an IPO, or until someone privately buys this company, Florida A&M ain't got no money from this guy, right? Did you hear the same thing that I heard?
Well, first, Brother Roland, thank you for having me on here. I'm really honored to be on here to discuss this very important issue. Today's foundation board meeting at FAMU was a disgrace. And I believe that it was a symbol of institutional failure at Florida A&M University. What we learned today was that the trust contains several million shares of worthless stock. There is no value to Batterson Farms. It doesn't have any land. It doesn't have all of the necessary licenses. It doesn't have any employees. It doesn't have any revenue that would allow it to be evaluated anywhere near $100 million evaluation. And so today's meeting was disturbing, to say the least. The fact that Florida A&M allowed this man to basically con them into accepting worthless shares led the president and leadership to not share this with their board, either the foundation board or the university board, because of a NDA is quite frankly preposterous. For FAMU to basically share that they received a worthless gift. I mean,
right.
It means nothing. I mean, it's completely.
I mean, this just for everybody who's watching. Okay, I own this company. I own Black Star Network 100%. It's a private company. If I right now, I could say, I'm going to gift Texas Southern University, I'm going to gift Paul Quinn College 15 million shares of stock in the Black Star Network. Now, even though I have an actual company, I've got employees, I've got revenue, I can then say, and this is listening to the call, I could say, I am assigning a value of this stock of $15.85 a share. I can just do it on my own. No one, because what happens is, unless there's an IPO, then you can call it whatever you want to call it. That's what this guy has done.
Well, so let me actually.
And then, Jarrell, when I was listening, here's what I never heard, and I was waiting on it. Did FAMU leadership ever visit this guy's company? Did they ever visit his office? Did they ever confirm how many employees he has? Go to my iPad. Tallahassee Democrat has this story. Woman listed as co-CEO with FAMU donor says she never worked for him. Kimberly Abbott, who formerly served on the city council in Birmingham, has known Jerami for years, long before the 30-year-old was celebrated for his donation. In an operation that Jerami himself says employs only a few full-time administrators in a workforce of 7,000 contract employees, Abbott was listed as co-CEO and vice chair of Batterson Farms Corporation, where Jerami is CEO. When asked if she worked at Batterson Farms, Abbott said, I never did. Jarrell, that's called massive red flag.
So here's the thing, Brother Roland. They didn't even have to visit these places. They could have merely Googled. So when I heard about this sort of gift on Saturday, I just Googled. It took me about 10, 15 minutes to realize that this was a complete hoax. I don't understand how it took me 10 minutes to figure out that this was a hoax. And it took FAMU months of
6 months.
investigation.
They claim it was a vetting process that lasted 6 months.
It took me 15 minutes to realize that this was completely a hoax, which is why I was able to write an op-ed so quickly, because it was apparent. And so the fact of the matter is, this is embarrassing, and I feel really bad for a number of reasons. Number one, the students. Those students who graduated from Florida A&M University worked really hard to graduate, and the fact that they had to hear from this flim-flam artist is actually shocking. I can remember my commencement address speaker. I graduated from Howard University, and we had some really, really esteemed individuals to give the commencement address. The fact that a university like FAMU did not do their due diligence and allowed this man to con them. Listen, the president of what's that?
Well, but for the people who are on the call, here's what's even crazy. They're on the call. They're discussing the donation. I thought I heard this correct. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Where they said some questions came up, and they still let them speak. I was listening, going, whoa, did I just hear that? They literally said some questions arose, but the president made the decision. Yes, let's move forward with him as commencement speaker. I was like,
so let me say this. So let me say this. FAMU deserves better. The fact that this happened is an institutional failure of massive proportions. The fact that this man was vetted or wasn't vetted, and they allowed him to speak is just outrageous. And so, it took me just a few moments to realize that this gentleman was a fraud and a hoax. And so I don't understand how you had an entire university infrastructure. I was listening to the vice president of advancement and the head of the foundation, who actually mentioned that she didn't actually even Google this gentleman, or she didn't do any due diligence. When you look at, it was very easy to figure out that this guy was not kosher. When you look at what he did at Coastal Carolina University, they could literally pick up the phone and call the advancement office to say, hey, what's the deal with someone who is giving this large amount to FAMU? And so overall, I just want to say FAMU deserves so much more. And for folks who think that I'm picking on FAMU, I'm a Howard graduate. If this happened at Howard, I would do the exact same thing. I just think that it speaks to a culture at FAMU's leadership that allows themselves to be conned when they literally could have spent 15 minutes or 10 minutes and realized this was not to be.
I mean, let's be clear.
So,
you pulled us up. First of all, the guy just created a website. I mean, if you do a search, it is as if this guy's a ghost. But when you pull stuff up, and I'm just sort of shaking my head, going, what in the hell were the FAMU folks doing? And of course, the president now says they're putting this thing, on ice. But I'm still I'm still trying to understand some basic things. What does he have a real business? Have you seen it? Have you been to the offices?
No.
He supposedly the stocks are in hydroponic and agriculture business. Have you seen any of it? Has anybody with Florida A&M physically said, yes, we visited his corporate office, we saw the farms, we met with workers? On that, everything I heard in that call, nobody ever said that. When I got off after about an hour, did you hear anybody say that?
No. So that is what's actually outrageous. The fact of the matter is, you have an advancements office, you have a president, and the fact that the president did not let the board know is malfeasance of a highest level. I can tell you that it's incompetence, and I'll just say this: FAMU deserves better. The fact that an esteemed university that was led by so many great people has fallen to these sort of levels is really a shame. The class of 2024 had a very difficult time. They started college in the middle of a pandemic, and they deserve to have a commencement address speaker. So I'll tell you what, I am willing for nothing. I actually make a donation. I am willing to give a commencement address at Florida A&M University so that they can hear from someone who basically did more work to uncover this than the university that they were educated at.
I mean, hell, I spoke Saturday at Wilberforce graduation, and I've done Stillman, South Carolina State, Lane. I got a real resume. This dude ain't got no resume. I mean, this Batterson Farms, the Seventh, the Family Trust, all this stuff sounds great, and it's just like, what are y'all talking about?
I'm going to say this: if you are familiar with New Jack City, there's a scene when Nino Brown is in the boardroom where he's going around saying nobody know nothing. I mean, the fact of the matter is, how this could happen is an institutional disgrace. And I'm not picking on FAMU. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't take a PhD in nuclear chemistry like the president of the university has to figure this out. It took me 15 minutes. And I can tell you that I appreciate some of the phone calls that I've gotten from the Rattler Nation thanking me for this. But I can also say that I was a little disturbed by some of the social media venom from some rattlers who.
Oh, man, they were dogging you, bro. Mind your. First of all, listen, let's just be real frank. Let's be like, where'd you go to college?
I went to Howard University.
Okay, all right. So you went to HBCU. Listen, I went to Texas A&M. And HBCU folk are protective about their individual school and HBCUs as opposed to, let's deal with the truth. And there were people who were attacking you, they were attacking others, as opposed to finding out the truth. And you've been posting a number of different stuff like, is this the house he live in? Is this the farm? I think you posted one item where he supposedly said he bought some farm or something and the property is still not sold. The thing never went through. I saw one story where he reached out to the University of Texas and they basically laughed at his ass. He called the University of Texas to try to give some money, and the University of Texas essentially laughed at him and hung up. But he's supposedly based in Texas. Bruh, come on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll just reiterate. FAMU deserves better. This is, in the board meeting today, was an embarrassment.
You tweeted a tie for an audit is nasty work. Well, explain that. What happened?
Well, what happened is one of the board members was suggesting that they do an audit to evaluate how they got here. And it was a tie for like 10 minutes. And someone texted no, which broke the tie. Then there was another motion for another sort of audit, and it passed. But the fact of the matter is, the fact that FAMU board and the president allow that board to go out in public like that and represent the university like that is shameful. I work in nonprofit management. That's what I do for a living. I'm a manager in a educational nonprofit. If I embarrass my board like that, I wouldn't have a job. And I can tell you that if everybody just goes along like this is no big deal, the fact of the matter is this university trumpeted in a consistent way the fact that they got $250 million when they really received nothing. So there has to be some consequence for folks who allowed this to happen.
They got sheets of paper. Let's go to my panel. Greg Carr, you first. You on mute, Greg.
Thank you, Roland.
There you go.
And it's good to see you, Brother Jarrell.
Yeah, I used to be a student of Dr. Carr, by the way. I took a class with Dr.
Yeah.
Carr at Howard.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. It's good to see you, brother. And it's good to see you continuing the great work that I encountered when you were at the university, man. It's good to see you in that regard. My question has to do with, I guess I could frame it by saying we don't have all the facts. I mean, we can certainly a lot of things circumstantial. What would your best advice be to Florida A&M or any black institution for that matter who finds itself in a situation where they have received at least the promise of a gift like this, and now everybody is basically deciding that there is no gift, there is no money? I mean, what would you suggest to be their best course of action at this point until the facts come out? Because we know the facts have not yet been established.
Well, first I'll say, Dr. Carr, that some of the facts are out. So we do know that the family trust consists of 15 million shares of Batterson Farms. We do know that Batterson Farms doesn't have the licenses required to grow hemp, does not have any employees, does not have any properties. And so we know that just because you say a company is worth $1 billion doesn't make it so. And so, I mean, I think it's important to deal with that. But on the second level, and then also there's just some questions, and I think research and articles have proven that Mr. Germany is not who he says he is, or he doesn't have the personal wealth that he has. So those are two facts that I think are important to consider. To your second part of your question about what advice I would have, I would give them the same advice that I would give any institution: to do their due diligence, to ensure that they're doing the proper sort of research and vetting to ensure that something like this could never happen. Quite frankly, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that this was a situation that was not real.
Well, here's a perfect example. Jarrell, hold on one second. Jarrell, hold on. This is from the Tallahassee. Again, this is the deal. In a media availability arranged by FAMU Monday, Jerami told the Tallahassee Democrat that Abbott, quote, left us maybe about a couple of months, maybe about a month ago. She has more of an advisor role right now. She had some health issues. When asked later whether he would be surprised to hear Abbott said she was never an employee of Batterson Farms and never received any compensation as an employee, Jerami said, quote, nothing surprises me anymore. He described her duties as co-CEO as really just there to guide and give more advice, and she didn't do as much work as others in the company. Her compensation, he said, was given through penny stocks. Now, right there. So what people need to understand, Jarrell, we talk about penny stocks. First of all, penny stocks are publicly traded companies. So I think what people don't realize is I can right now go out and I can go buy a shell company. I can go buy and create a publicly traded company, and I can be trading on with penny stocks. This article right here shows you how he gets caught in a lie. So if you paid her through penny stocks, what was the publicly traded company? What were the stocks? This woman is listed as co-CEO. She now says, I never served as CEO of the company. Hello, that's red flag. And so what I don't understand is how did the FAMU board today not vote to call for an extensive examination and investigation and literally track these things down? By the way, according to the same story, there was supposed to be a meeting on Wednesday. You see it right here. On Wednesday, a FAMU spokesperson invited the Tallahassee Democrat to meet with Jerami and officials of the university's foundation office, but moments before it was scheduled to begin, a FAMU official said it was canceled because, quote, something came up, unquote. He said any future interview, quote, was unpaused. I'm sorry, that's a joke.
Yeah, and I do want to say this. I want to answer the second part of Brother Carr's, which is like an alpha sort of meeting here.
Well, that's how it always happens, but go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say this to Dr. Carr's point. It's important to do your due diligence. And it's also important to inform your board. I think that is a massive failure on this part. The fact that the foundation board and the university board was not informed is a failure of just massive proportions. The fact that the president is saying that they couldn't tell their board because they had an NDA is crazy. The fact of the matter is the president is an employee of the board.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just pure board governance and just pure, organizational governance. And the fact that he thought it was appropriate to say, hey, we couldn't tell you because we had an NDA. You can't do anything.
And you're a state institution. And so even though you are Florida A&M and you sign a NDA, somebody in the state of Florida has the authority to review the NDA. You're a state institution. You can't just hide behind an NDA.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this again, and it's really important. This did not take a lot of work, right? Like, I knew immediately that this was bizarre. And within 15 minutes, I realized it was completely a joke.
Right here. When contacted by the Tallahassee Democrat, the head of the Texas Hemp Growers Association said he had not heard of Batterson Farms Corporation or Jerami. Now, if you're supposed to be a big-time hemp grower, the Texas Hemp Growers Association might know who you are.
So let me say this. I think Jerami has some challenges that I hope he gets help for. I don't necessarily blame Jerami because it's obvious that he needs help.
Right.
Who I do blame is the university that allowed themselves to be a pawn.
Yep.
The fact that they didn't do their due diligence and allowed this man to give a commencement address. That, for me, speaks to massive institutional failures that has to change. FAMU deserves better.
And not only that,
you don't deserve this.
Not only that, Kim Godwin, who at the time was the president of ABC News, was out the next day, sent 2 camera crews to the graduation to cover it. So, Reese, go.
Mr. Blakely, thank you for being here. I think it's strange that FAMU did less due diligence than Risa Tisa did in Who the F Did I Marry on TikTok. But thanks to and part of your voice around this has brought attention to a very bizarre and strange scam, it appears. I just want to get your thoughts on the layer of protection and the defensiveness people seem to have around you specifically calling this out for it seemed pretty outrageous from the start, and people's willingness to call themselves digging up dirt on you as opposed to focusing on the issue at hand, which is it looked like FAMU was being scammed. And have you gotten any retractions or apologies for the people who were dragging you on the social media about this?
Well, I'll just say that people are kind of quiet. I haven't really heard anything recently since the board meeting because it turns out I was 100% right. I don't purport to be perfect. I'm not purporting to be a saint. I've done things that I've regretted. But quite frankly, this isn't about me. And folks are engaging in ad hominem attacks. Don't make the story about me. Make the story about what I'm saying about FAMU. And so it doesn't matter who I call what or what I did when I was an elected official. That's in the past. I've moved on. The fact of the matter is I should not have had to say this. This should have been something that should have been captured months ago. The fact that this gentleman gave a commencement address and the fact that they didn't do their due diligence is the reason why they're here. It's not, in fact, it should have been someone at FAMU. It should have been someone in the audience that said, yo, this meeting, this commencement address is strange. Who's this guy? But the fact that the entire academic hierarchy at FAMU, folks with PhDs, law degrees, JDs, PhDs, MBAs, allowed themselves to allow this man to present a worthless check on the stage of FAMU's graduation and have Charlie Wilson's I'm Blessed and the OJ's For the Love of Money playing is shameful. Like, it's the most ridiculous thing ever. And the fact that they allow that to happen is the story, not who I called what when I was an elected official.
Lauren?
Jarrell, is there any possibility that FAMU had some sort of like Mackenzie Scott fever and thought that this was real? Have they ever gotten another donation that was even close to this type of donation?
Well, I'll say that's a really good question. And so, I mean, the fact of the matter is, HBCUs deserve this kind of money, and it's unfortunate that they don't get this kind of money. The highest contribution to a historically black college was a recent donation to Spelman College by the Stryker family of $100 million, which is the largest contribution to a historically black college ever. Compare that to Michael Bloomberg's philanthropy towards Johns Hopkins, where he has donated $3.5 billion to one university. That $3.5 billion is more than all of the HBCU's endowments combined. And so I think, there's a desire. I can understand why one official was crying, because this type of investment would have been very transformational for Florida A&M University and other universities of similar stature. However, just because we want something to be true doesn't mean that it is. And it's incumbent upon the people who are paid to represent the university and to do their due diligence to do the right thing. And so I know that, for example, these types of investments just don't fall from the sky. For example, the Stryker endowment that was given to the Spelman College, that Stryker has been on the board for 30 years, and they have given countless money before that $100 million donation. And so for FAMU to think that someone was going to basically walk off the street and say, hey, I'm going to give you $250 million, particularly when that person has no track record, you never heard of them before, speaks to a level of gullibility that is actually breathtaking and really, really shameful. If I was a board member next week when the full board convenes, I'd be wanting some answers. And if I didn't get any legitimate answers, I'd be telling folks, we'll send your box in the mail, go home and do something else with your career. This is a very big deal. The fact of the matter is, this is an institutional failure of huge proportions, and multiple people failed the university and failed the students by not doing their due diligence.
So let me say this here again. What was said on the call today, which was stunning, was that this guy called out of the blue. He just called the office one day saying, I want to make a gift. And they begin to have different conversations about different gifts. And you heard Jarrell mention the $100 million to Spelman. On the Zoom call today, they said that after the Spelman College donation was announced, Jerami came back and said, I want to increase my gift to exceed the Spelman donation. And they went, yay! This is absolutely insane. Lauren?
No, I didn't have anything else. Thanks.
Well, Jarrell, so what? So this was the foundation meeting today. What's next week? An actual Board of Trustees meeting?
Yeah, I believe it's an actual Board of Trustee meeting. I think an outcome of the foundation board meeting, the president, Robinson, mentioned that the sort of gift is on hold, right? Which is another example, because the gift was never on. So how can it be on hold if it was never on? I think that the board meeting was outrageous. The fact that people just didn't fall on their sword, or people just didn't say, hey, we messed up. I just think really speaks to a culture. Listen, if Dr. Robinson has a job next week, I'd be shocked. Like I couldn't imagine. Put it like this: if Dr. Robinson is able to survive this, the problems at FAMU are a lot more intense than even this situation would imply.
We shall see what happens next. Jarrell Blakely, thanks a lot.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
You know what? I wish a lot of black people would shut the hell up about Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. Let me explain why I'm saying that. I've watched people do these commentaries. Oh, they sitting here giving the white girl more contracts than the black person. All this back and forth. Let me remind people of something. The NBA was in the gutter. The NBA was considered a drug-fueled league. In fact, let me help you all out. My Houston Rockets played the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals. I think that was 81. It was on tape delay. Let me say that again. It was on tape delay, the NBA Finals. The news came on at 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. Central in Houston, and they showed the game on tape delay after the news went off. That's how much the NBA sucked. Yet two people came into the league, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. And the reality is those two individuals representing two iconic franchises, Boston Celtics, Los Angeles Lakers, they played these against each other in the NCAA National Championship game. That created the energy that revived and turned around the NBA. And so I was just seeing today, because the WNBA announced that teams now will be able to do charter flights. Somebody was like, oh, here it is. Now they doing charters because the video came out of Caitlin Clark walking through the airport having to be surrounded by security. Nope. The reason they now are going to have charters in the WNBA, because they now have more money. Their media rights deal is going to be a much higher deal than it was in the past. That's what's going on. Amazon and another major company announced, Amazon and Adidas, I think, announced a major investment in terms of WNBA players. I need people to sometimes chill the hell out with, oh my goodness, there's like the white girl getting all this attention. Here's the whole deal. Let me just help folks out, because it ain't hard. There are more white people in America. Yep, those are the numbers. And so if you're an advertiser and you're going to market a Caitlin Clark, who, whether you like it or not, did break numerous records, great. But let me help everybody out there who's complaining about something. When a black guy started playing golf, you know what happened? TV contracts got renegotiated and the purses went through the roof. It's a whole bunch of white golfers sitting there like, man, I'm glad Tiger came along, because we all got paid if Tiger come along. Versus sitting here complaining about Caitlin Clark and, oh, why these things are happening because of Caitlin Clark. Maybe folks should step back and now realize that with the resurgence of the ratings and the basketball ratings and what's going to happen with WNBA and now more attention, guess what? Everybody's now going to get paid more money. So I'm not tripping about the attention being paid to Caitlin Clark. I'm like, good. Because the vast majority of players in the WNBA are black. Which now means that if the value of the WNBA increases, the salaries of black players increase. That now means that you're going to have more contracts, more endorsement deals for other players. And let's stop tripping. You've had some great white female ball players before. Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Rebecca Lobo. Y'all, come on. I just think that sometimes folk are so touchy if they don't realize what's going on. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and all the other players is great for women's basketball. And I hope the ratings go through the roof. The demand of play, that was, the WNBA did not show the first preseason game of the Chicago Sky. Now, I'm going to blame the Chicago Sky owners. Because see, guess what? The Indiana Fever owners, they rolled the red carpet for Caitlin Clark. They completely capitalized on her popularity. They had the jersey ready, everything. Chicago Sky, that Angel Reese news conference, that shit sucked. It sucked ass. It was horrible. I blame ownership for that. I blame management for that. If you're the Chicago Sky and you ain't marketing Angel Reese right, that's on you. Not the WNBA, but I want black folks to recognize that if Caitlin Clark causes the WNBA's media rights to skyrocket and jersey sales to skyrocket and all of these teams become elevated, I'm good with that. Because a lot of black ball players are going to benefit as well. Let's go to my panel, chat about this here. Kelly, I've watched a lot of women's hoops. When Texas A&M went to the NCAA championship, played Notre Dame. They beat Stanford in the semifinals. I booked a flight to Indianapolis. I was there for the championship game when they won. Hugely supportive of my man. Gary Blair was the head coach. I grew up in Houston. We watched the Houston Comets, the first dynasty in the WNBA, win 3 championships. Tina Thompson, Cynthia Cooper, as well as Cheryl Swoops. When I look at it, I remember the UConn, Tennessee games were just legendary. I mean, you're seeing this, but I just think a lot of people are being way too damn sensitive. As if, oh my goodness, how they mistreating the sister, Angel Reese versus the white girl getting all the attention. I'm sorry. The Indiana Fever were prepared to blow everything out of the water. Chicago Sky were not. And guess what? Again, just like with Tiger, if Caitlin Clark's presence causes ratings to skyrocket and money to skyrocket, everybody benefits, not just her.
I think two things can be true at the same time. Your viewpoint of Caitlin Clark elevating the visibility of the NBA, elevating the value of the WNBA, that very well may be true because she's an excellent ball player. I'm not going to take that away from her. I can't take that away from her. The stats speak for themselves. But there is a point of contention being that she is getting this exposure because she's white. It's not that black women basketball players weren't ever as good as Caitlin Clark. They were. They just didn't get that attention.
But also, also nobody was watching.
But they weren't watching because they were black women.
They weren't watching because we live in a sports world that was male dominated, and the people who are sitting. First of all, you had some white girls hooping back then too. So it wasn't like Cheryl Miller, Teresa Witherspoon, Dawn Staley. It was just them. You had some white girls hooping. We're just simply seeing the league and the embracing of women's sports come of age. And I'm like, great. Clark, Reese, whoever, everybody come along, because finally they can now start making real money in America and I ain't got to go overseas.
Mm-hmm. Again, true. But there's layers to this. It's not just the fact that, there's an elevation of women's sports, but the elevation specifically when it comes to the WNBA and Caitlin Clark, it's because Caitlin Clark is white. I mean, that is a layer to it, right? I'm not saying, again, I'm not dismissing her accomplishments. I'm not trying to inflate Reese's accomplishment.
Got it.
But again, the reason why we're seeing a lot of what we're seeing in the WNBA is because their star player is a white woman.
And if Larry Bird was not white, and when Magic Johnson came out, you would not have seen the reaction in the NBA.
Exactly. I'm just saying, like, we just need to recognize that there are layers to this. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but the layer that people are talking about the most is the fact that she's a white woman. And that part
who can hoop
as well.
Who can hoop? At the end of the day, she ain't just white, Michael. She can hoop.
Yeah, there are layers to this. I think some people, I watched some of the commentary on MSNBC, and I watched some of the commentary from sports analysts who really follow the WNBA. So I remember when the WNBA started, and I watched it. We had the Detroit Shock here in Detroit. The owner of the Detroit Shock sold them because really there was a lack of support here in Detroit. But also the WNBA, the way it was promoted, okay, just in general, the way it was promoted, I think you see more interest in it now than you have over the past few years. A few things have happened. Number one, I think the fight to get Brittany Griner released from Russia, I think that helped to draw attention to to how little WNBA players were being played, and the fact that she had to play for a Russian team to make $1 million a season playing for Russia and couldn't get that here in the U.S. And then we know there were contract renegotiations, I think it was last year, for WNBA players. And then also the NCAA championship, the rematch between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, that drew a record number of viewers. And like for myself, for the first time, I watched some of the WNBA draft. I don't ever remember watching any of the WNBA draft in the past. So it draws all of this attention, increase in ticket sales, viewership, as well as jerseys. That helps benefit everybody. And we know Angel Reese has contracts. We know even in college, Angel Reese had contracts. Caitlin Clark has a contract with Xfinity and others. So this is going to help everybody. But because this is America, there's always usually some racism in it as well.
But see, but to me, it's not even a question of racism. Look, I get all that. I understand history. I understand all those things. But I also understand marketing. And what I understand, Matt, is that if I'm looking at this here, and I'm also looking at how first of all these WNBA teams have been losing money, all of them.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And so now you see what's happening in college. In order to actually build something, you need stars. You need stars that transcend their sports. And you had other stars, but the reality is, were they marketable stars? Maybe. But the reality is, when you have a player that crosses a certain threshold, that crosses a sports threshold, that now has what Michael just said, he sat and actually watched the WNBA draft. What now happens is, when you have a player of that caliber, then what you do is you latch onto that. David Stern wasn't crazy. David Stern said, hell yeah, I got to latch on to Michael Jordan. And he was black. Because the reality is, you have to understand, it's a marketing game. You're competing in a sports landscape where you have the behemoth of the NFL. The second behemoth is the NBA. The third behemoth is Major League Baseball. Look, the PGA Tour for all of guess what? That tour is only worth $1.25 billion. That's far away from baseball, basketball, and football. We talk about the WNBA, you're lower than hockey. You might be on par. You're probably lower even than Major League Soccer. So I dare say, the people kind of like, man, this is a damn shame what they doing. A bunch of these people who also would support Angel Reese never even followed WNBA. And I'll give y'all something. I did not know until somebody tweeted They said all these teams are avoiding the Las Vegas Aces. And I was like, huh? I didn't know that the WNBA teams, they pick their own preseason opponents. Those games are not scheduled by the league. I was like, wow. Why? Because I don't follow WNBA like that. And so a lot of people who are commenting are new to WNBA, don't know nothing about the history, don't know nothing about anything at all. And so they're like, I can't believe her game wasn't on. Y'all, they barely had their games on regular season. So what the WNBA now has to do, they now got to play a massive game of catch up because the interest of these incoming stars is now driving the fandom, and now the league is going to have to recalculate, and the teams are going to have to recalculate. And so you take the Washington franchise. If you're the Mystics, which is one in WNBA championship, they play their games somewhere else. If Caitlin Clark is coming to town, better put that damn thing in Capital One. That's just marketing 101, Matt.
I don't think you're wrong, but I think you are focused myopically on the economic part of this.
You damn right I am.
This comes at the expense of a league that was comprised of already 60% players. And look at this. The reason Caitlin Clark has skyrocketed as the person that the WNBA has gotten behind is she is dominant. I mean, you're not telling the truth if you don't say she's not a fantastic athlete. However, she's also an Iowan. She's a Midwestern, inoffensive white woman who fits the exact prototype of who they want to run with to be the great white hope. Look at Larry Bird, French Lick, Indiana. I mean, how much did they play up that here's this country hick who can hoop with all the inner city brothers?
No. Hold on, let's be clear. That same country hick was like, don't y'all put no white dude on me to guard me. That's disrespectful. That same white boy said, y'all better put a brother on me to show me some respect for my game. He could hoop.
And he was cold, and Caitlin Clark can hoop. There's no question with that. But the reality is she fits an archetype that is marketable, more marketable than some of the women who are already in the league. And to not discuss that is to purposely overlook clear evidence. And here's the thing. Kelly said it perfectly. That's why I hate when I go second or third, because two things can be true at the same time, right? And the WNBA would be, asinine. It would not be smart to not capitalize on this momentum, but we cannot be dishonest as though this momentum is not behind an archetypal white woman who is offensive and who fits that prototype.
And what I'm saying is
It is inherent that black people will see that and take umbrage with that. I don't think there's a problem with that. Two things can be true at the same time.
And guess what?
Coverage. Caitlin Clark ran into a fan on the court, right? And there were all kinds of equivocations about why that happened and why it wasn't as problematic. But Angel Reese, motions to her in the championship game, and she's the spawn of Satan. And the reality is, even if the WNBA is capitalizing on this, we cannot overlook the fact that Caitlin Clark fits a prototype that is more marketable than a black woman in a black-dominated sport. That is just the truth of it.
And
I don't think people are wrong for seeing it.
And let me be clear. When Tiger Woods came out, what was marketed, he was black, he was different, he was dominant, and guess what? Every single white player, every single tour stop, they all were like, ooh, yeah, Lord. Because you know why? Tiger got all of them paid. And all I'm saying is this here, I ain't gonna be mad. If the white girl come in here and hoop, and she sit here and drive interest and drive ratings, we all gonna get paid. Because guess what? The NBA was majority black when Larry and Magic came in. And there was a lot of black ball players who were jealous of hell of Magic Johnson and the contract he got. But guess what? All them same players got paid big deals because of Magic and Larry. All I'm saying is, y'all folk can be mad, upset. Caitlin getting this, I want Caitlin Clark to blow the hell up. because that means the 60+% of black ball players, salaries are going to increase, sponsorship's going to increase, marketing deals going to increase. So I'm all for it. Go right ahead. Ball out. I want Caitlin Clark to do for the sisters what Tiger Woods did for the white boys in golf. Make everybody richer.
If that happened in a vacuum, I'd be completely with you. But it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens where she is compared to the black women and is lionized, where those black women are looked at as less than valuable. I mean, look at Emmanuel Acho's comments. And first off, when we talk about Angel
First of all, Emmanuel Acho could go to hell. But go ahead.
Well, I appreciate your directness and forthrightness in your opinion.
I ain't never operated in the gray area.
I appreciate that. But the point to that is the expense is there's a rising tide lifts all boats, but it has been at the expense of black women in exchange for the great white hope.
But actually it hasn't. Here's the reality. If anyone studies the game, if you study the WNBA, what you have seen is this. You've seen a slow, steady increase. Let's be real clear. You have had white superstars come out of college. Again, Sue Bird, Taurasi. I can name several. You've had black stars, Maya Moore, Aja Wilson. You could name all of them. But the reality is, we all understand once in a generation. Magic and Larry were once in a generation. Michael Jordan was once in a generation. Tiger Woods was once in a generation. It happens. And so there's going to be somebody who hits at the right time, at the right moment, and all of a sudden catapults a sport. I'm using Tiger as an example. You had Arnold, you had Jack, you had Johnny Miller, you had Tom Kite, you had Tom Watson, but none of them brought what Tiger brought. And what I'm saying is all the other golfers, the purses in golf were like $1.5 million. That shit went to 3, 4, 5, rising. Hell, one of the reasons why they worry right now about the Saudi Arabian folk, because Tiger is so hurt, he ain't winning, and they ain't gonna get no big media deal. All I'm saying is, I am not going to be mad with what happens with Caitlin Clark, because guess what? A bunch of folk who are black are about to get paid real well. And you know what? The franchises, you're going to see more marketing, more visibility, more games on broadcast network, a better deal, and that's going to also then spur more interest in women's college basketball, women's high school basketball. It's going to come all the way down. So I'm here for it. I ain't going to complain about it because I ain't got no problem seeing Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, Aja Wilson, all these folks over the next decade. So I'm like, Caitlin, come in here, hoop your ass off, and get everybody paid.
You're right. But
because one of the reasons Brittany Griner had to go to Russia, because they could not make a lot of money in the WNBA. So I'm down with it. That's what I was saying. I'm down with it. I'm like, I'm good. I'm like, hey, Caitlin, go score your 40. Go right ahead.
CNN's coverage was a picture of Iowa losing the championship, right? Because she's the great white hope. And I'm not taking anything away from her. I think she's a dominant athlete, and I think she is a generational talent. But we would be obtuse to not look at the fact that part of the reason they have run with her the way they have is because she is the great white hope.
Let me ask you this question. If Tiger Woods was in the final group in the Masters and he lost by one stroke, would the winner's photo have been on CNN.com?
Yes.
No, it wouldn't.
Yes, it would.
No, it wouldn't.
Yes, it would.
No, it wouldn't. I'm telling you right, Kelly.
When he was in his prime.
No, Kelly.
When he first got on the scene, Yes, they would.
No, Kelly.
If he was in the same standing as Caitlyn.
No, Kelly.
Yes, they would.
Kelly, you didn't hear Kelly, you didn't hear the question. You didn't hear what I said. You didn't hear what I said. What I said is the Masters was last month. If Tiger Woods was in the final group and Tiger Woods came up one shot short of the Masters, who would have been on the front of CNN.com? Tiger loses the Masters by 1, not whoever won. You know why? Do you know why? Do you know why? Because whoever won ain't as marketable as Tiger. Now,
but you're
hold up. Now, I'm telling you how editorial decisions are made. Now, what happened was CNN got their ass ripped. CNN got their ass ripped, and they had to actually change that. But that's what happens when folk focus on an individual and not team. But I'm telling you, bottom line is this here. What Caitlin Clark is going to do, I'm going to compare it to Michael Jordan. The deal that she signed with Nike, the deal that Michael signed with Nike. Magic and Bird saved the WNBA and took it here. Michael Jordan took it here to a whole new level. And Michael was black. If Caitlin Clark does that, every player is going to benefit. I ain't gonna be mad. I'm gonna get paid. I'm telling you, y'all can write this down right now. All three of y'all, write this day right now, write down 8:06 p.m. I guarantee you the average salary of the WNBA players in 5 years will more than double and possibly triple what it is today, because their television rights deals are going to be a lot higher than it was before this year. Watch it happen. That means everybody gets paid. So I'm cool with everybody getting paid. I'm cool with it. Except Michael and Sigmas. But I'm cool with it.
I don't have a problem with it.
I'm cool. No, I'm just saying, it's just going to be. And if,
what's going to happen.
And all them franchises, y'all watch this year. You're going to see folk walking around with Mystic shirts. You like, damn, I ain't never seen this many Mystic shirts in D.C. I ain't never seen. Y'all still got y'all team in Detroit, Michael?
No, I was saying no. And the Detroit Shock won at least 3 championships that I remember. And it was sold because of really lack of support here in Detroit. So it was sold maybe 8 to 10 years ago, something like that. But with the popularity of the WNBA increasing, with Detroit just having the NFL draft here, and the Lions just making the playoffs as well early this year.
I'll put another bet. I'm gonna do another bet.
Detroit could get a WNBA.
I'm gonna do another bet.
Team again.
Y'all, I bet they bring your team back, and trust me, they're gonna bring the Houston Comets back. You know why? Because now WNBA franchises are now going to be able to make some money.
Yes,
they were losing money, all of them, the whole league. The league has been
give away tickets for the Shock. They used to give away tickets.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Y'all watch. Everybody about to get paid. So all the sisters, cash them checks. Cash the checks and be like them white boys in golf. They were like, Tiger, appreciate that, dog. Appreciate that. It's going to happen. And you know what? It's going to be great. It's going to be great because the ratings are also going to go to the next level. So I can't wait to see what I call the WNBA 3.0. We had 1.0, we had 2.0. What you see this year is going to take them to a whole new level. And then when you get the stars coming out of college next year,
right,
it's going to be what? The girl Paige from UConn. Then you've got the other star. I'm telling y'all, it's going to be a whole new deal. I can't wait for it.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Hashtag we tried to tell you. When we were talking about the Louisiana gubernatorial election and all the statewide seats, Gary Chambers was talking about it. We were warning y'all. And when I said, beware of sitting your ass at home because stuff is going to go down that you don't like, it's playing out. Y'all, Jeff Landry ain't been the governor for 6 months. And hardcore MAGA right-wing extremists out of their damn mind Republicans are going mad in Louisiana. They just rejected a rape and incest exception for abortion in the state. Jeff Landry has been threatening to withhold critical infrastructure funds from the city of North Carolina unless the DA prosecutes women who have abortions. Now, Republicans, now it's the Holy Grail. They are moving expeditiously to rewrite the state constitution. The state house just voted to advance the bill calling for a constitutional convention. The bill is now headed to the Senate for debate. If passed, the constitutional convention would take place in August. Trust me, folks, they don't need any Democrats' opinion or advice on nothing. Dillard University political analyst Dr. Robert Collins joins us now from New Orleans. Doc, glad to have you here. You know, it drives me crazy when we talk about this stuff and people say, man, you just trying to get us to vote Democrat, you on the plantation, man, that stuff don't mean nothing, we not gonna be hurt, we done survived Republicans in power before. When you start talking about changing the Constitution, what did Rebecca say? Now, when you enshrine it in the Constitution, you can't just change it with the legislature because it is locked into place.
It's locked into place. Once the Constitution is rewritten, the only way you can change it is to call another constitutional convention, which of course takes supermajorities in both houses of the state legislature, and then a full vote of the people in a statewide election.
Meaning, if Democrats clawed back and took the supermajority away from the Republicans, it wouldn't matter because they would still be in power. If it doesn't pass the House and the Senate, it don't matter.
Yeah, the Democrats would have to get supermajorities in both houses, which is not going to happen.
Walk people through the type of dastardly, evil bills these Republicans have been quickly advancing. And folk watching and listening, I need y'all to understand, when I say quickly, I'm talking about they are moving at lightning speed, Robert.
Mm-hmm. So, everything the governor said he was going to do, he was going to do. So we had a crime session first. That was a special session. So they did away with parole, did away with probation. So basically, you have to serve your entire sentence. Now, they actually reversed a lot of the criminal justice reform measures passed, interestingly enough, with bipartisan support by the previous administration. So things like decriminalizing small amounts of marijuana, bills that stopped automatically putting mugshots online until those cases had been adjudicated. All of these bills that were just passed a couple of years ago with a lot of Republican votes. All of these bills are now being repealed. We have probably the strictest abortion law in the United States. I know there are a lot of very strict abortion laws in the United States now in the South, but ours is probably the strictest because it has no exceptions for rape or incest. I mean, it's a pretty absolutist law. There's legislation now to outlaw the abortion pill. So if in theory, if citizens were to get abortion pills in the mail, they could send police, and if the police catch you with it, you can be charged with a crime, even though you would have had the pill shipped in from somewhere that's legal, and they're still legal under federal law. So just very, very draconian conservative measures, which again, I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all because the governor said he was going to do these things. So this is not a shock. It's not like the governor was hiding who he is and then he jumped up and said, oh, here I am, I'm going to do all this secret stuff. No, the governor said exactly what he was going to do. So, and he's just doing, he's doing what he promised his voters to do.
Well, see, this reminds me of, so this is like when Democrats are like, oh my God, I can't believe they overturned Roe v. Wade. I'm like, they've been telling your dumb ass for 50 years. That's what their plan was. So it wasn't like it was a surprise. But again, and so what's interesting to me, when I see these people now reacting, I'm sitting there going, see, this is what happens when you spend more time focusing on going to the homecoming game on election day than actually going out to vote. Then this is what happens when people are like, well, man, we didn't know that was an election. Well, a bunch of other people clearly knew that was an election. This is the frustration for me is trying to get our people to understand we can't be operating on the defensive and going, oh my God, what is happening when the man said I was going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's interesting is just recently we had a committee form of former elected officials. There's at least one former mayor. There's some other former local in the city of New Orleans, supposedly to protect the city of New Orleans from any home rule charter changes or any attacks against our governing structure from the governor. But my first question was like, okay, well, where were these people during the election?
Right.
Instead of organizing now, what they should have been doing if these were issues that if they didn't want the home rule charter to change, they didn't want governance structures to change, they should have been registering the people to vote and then making sure people turned out on election day during the gubernatorial election. And this is nothing new. I mean, in recent elections, in Orleans Parish, in the city of New Orleans, if we can get 20% of the vote to turn out, we're doing great, So it's just 25%. That would be outstanding for us. And so we just see continual low voter turnout in Orleans Parish, and now we have public officials organizing because they're upset that the home rule charter might get changed. But this organization should have been, months ago, really years ago. And the primary organizing that you should have done is getting people registered to vote and then making sure people turn out on election day so that their voices can be heard.
Well, and this is why, for me, the reason why this is just sort of like just grates at me is because I hate playing on defense. I hate being emotional when, if you go on offense, you can stop it from happening before it goes in. Look, you may not prevent the Republicans from controlling both chambers, but you damn sure could have stopped it from having a supermajority, which now means they got to at least talk to the other side to get something passed. Now, they ain't got to talk to anybody. They can do whatever the hell they want to and tell Democrats, y'all sit over there and talk all y'all want to. We going to run this show, and y'all just sit there and be quiet.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. The Republicans do not need a single Democratic vote to pass any of those bills. They don't need a single one. All they have to do is just hold their
caucus.
Yeah, hold their caucus together. I was just saying my title was It was I had a different title just now.
So what about So what about the this Constitutional Convention? I'm gonna go to questions from my panel in a second. What about simple majority, supermajority? Or is it 2/3? So can Democrats stop anything, or can Republicans just run roughshod, do whatever they want? So what are the rules of this Constitutional Convention?
Yeah. So because so it takes 2/3 votes in both houses to call a constitutional convention, which is and so they've already passed it in the House. They're debating it in the Senate now. There were some amendments made to the governor's version. It's going to pass the Senate. We don't know exactly what form it's going to pass. I'm sure the Senate's going to introduce their own amendments. It's going to be changed. It's eventually going to pass in some form, and then all of the state legislators are going to become delegates to this convention. The governor, under the current legislation, he will appoint 27 members, and 27 members from outside of the legislature will become delegates, and then they will just sit as a body, and then it'll again, under the legislation could change, but under the current status of the legislation, basically the committees will meet, and the Constitution will be written or rewritten, and then it just has to be passed by majority vote. But then, of course, it has to be put on the ballot, and it has to be voted on by the citizens of Louisiana, and the citizens of Louisiana have to ratify it by an up or down vote, so by a simple majority. So right now, it will be on the ballot during the November presidential election, and the citizens would get a vote, and it would be ratified by a yes or no up or down vote of the citizens.
So they want to have this Constitutional Convention in this August, and it go on the ballot this November.
Correct.
So if black folks rise up, and if sane white folks rise up, whatever they do can actually be stopped and not implemented, but that's going to require turnout.
Correct. I think the best shot if for people to stop it, I don't really, at this point, I don't think you can stop it, the new Constitution from being rewritten. The chance to stop it will be when it actually gets put on the ballot, because then it's just a simple majority vote, it's an up-down vote. So then it's a question of whether or not people decide to turn out and vote again. And I mean, let's be clear, there are a lot of white folks too that I think that are going to turn out, that are not happy about it. Not so much about the concept we don't need a new constitution, but Roland, last time we rewrote our constitution, which is 774, it was a 2-year process, and it involved sort of like a road show where legislative committees traveled all over the state and asked citizens what they wanted in the Constitution. And there were a lot of public meetings, and there was a lot of. Keep in mind, this would be a 2 to 3 week process. So there are a lot of people, including a lot of Republicans, who are saying, "Wait a minute, this is too fast. This is, we're not going to have enough time to have public input of this bill." So I think that if something's going to sink the bill, or something's going to sink the new Constitution being ratified, that's what might sink it, because a lot of people are saying it's being rushed, and there's just not enough citizen input as to what they need.
Robert?
So on that point, what is the plan in order to try to push these things through? Is it more public education? Is it engaging more of the state legislature? Because I believe if this works, it can be complicated around the country.
Well, you mean what is the plan of the Republicans to pass the Constitution? Or?
Exactly, because I've been talking to conservatives for years. They want to have a constitutional convention or convention of the state. They want to reform our Constitution, to 1789. They want to reform our Constitution to the Articles of Confederacy and enshrine white supremacy in our Constitution, and do that on a nationwide level. What is the plan? If they're doing that there, I believe they will start metastasizing nationwide, and we'll start seeing this be the norm as opposed to the aberration.
Yep.
Sure. I think, well, their plan is, I think, and this is just my view. I think their plan is that a lot of people are not paying attention right now. We just saw a poll by one of the local state pollsters who did a poll and listed, what is your number one issue? And of course, most people said crime. Secondary, people said economy and jobs. Only 1% of the respondents to the poll said that the Constitution or the Constitutional Convention was an issue of theirs. So I think the people that are trying to write the Constitution, their assumption is that most people are not paying attention right now because they just don't care. And so I think their hope is it's a complicated process. It's a complicated process. And so their hope is that they can go ahead and get it passed and put it on the ballot. And then they know they'll have very high Republican turnout because, Trump always carries our state and he will in the next election. And so they know they're just going to put it, on the ballot, and they're just going to say, oh, by the way, while you're there voting for President Trump, please vote for this constitutional rewrite. Knowing that most people have not read it and don't know what's in it and will just go along with what their governor tells them to do.
Rebecca.
Thank you for being on the show tonight. I'm concerned about the Black people in Louisiana. So right now, the Democratic Party in Louisiana is impotent and feckless. The Republican Party in Louisiana is power hungry. So do Black folks take over the Democratic Party and try to fight back, or they cut a deal with the Republicans? What's the best path forward for the Black communities in Louisiana?
Well, I can tell you. So we just did get a new chair of the Louisiana Democratic Party. The old chair was seen as being ineffective by Democratic activists, and so there was an election for new members of the state central committee, and a lot of community organizers organized and ran. And so they removed the former chair, and we got a new chair of the Louisiana Democratic Party who is African American. He's a lawyer and a former state representative, former colonel in the U.S. Army, and so he's and so we'll see what he does with the party. He's brand new. He's only been, I guess, about a month. He's only been there 3-4 weeks. So we'll see but the entire party is going to have to be reformed from the bottom up, not just from the top down, to become an organized party again. Now as far as cutting a deal with the Republicans, I can tell you. So in past legislatures, the legislative Black Caucus did occasionally need to cut deals with the Republicans to get their issues taken care of. And they did. Basically, they served as the swing vote between factions of Republicans. So you had the very conservative Republicans and the somewhat conservative Republicans, and they would fight over committee chairmanships or who got to be speakers. And the Black Caucus would come together, and they would serve as the swing vote in those disputes, and in return they would get some committee chairmanships and some of their issues. But the problem is now that the Republicans have supermajorities in both houses for the first time, literally for the first time in Louisiana history. The issue now is that they don't really have to play ball with the Black Caucus anymore. Now, what's going to happen eventually? At some point in time in the future, there will be more factionalism and the Republicans will fight amongst themselves, and so then the Black Caucus, and those guys are normally pretty smart about things because they have to be to survive. They will come in and they will serve mediators and they will serve as tiebreakers on some of those votes. So I'm not saying that I don't think it would be accurate to say the Black Caucus doesn't matter. They still matter because they do control, they do vote together and have a block of votes, but they don't have as much influence that they had in previous state legislatures, just because the reality that the Republicans have the supermajorities in both houses.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yep.
So I'm not, with all due respect, I'm not talking about the Black Caucus because that is largely the Black Democratic Caucus. I'm talking about actually Black communities in Louisiana because, quite frankly, some of the problems that we're seeing with the Democratic Party there, it's not just because of the chair that Republicans have a supermajority. That means the entire party is in shambles and that there's problems. So specifically, taking this out of the Democratic Party apparatus, really, what should Black communities in Louisiana do? Because I don't know that Black communities have a few months of wait to see what these new folks, because, not everybody is like us and all skin folk ain't kinfolk. So really, what should the average everyday Black person in Louisiana do in this type of situation to make sure that their family is protected moving forward?
Well, I mean, what people should have been doing all along is engaging in the process and learning what's going on and actually registering and turning out to vote. Now the community is in. If you're on the liberal or the Democratic side of the ledger, you're gonna, or if you are a Black person, just in general in Louisiana. You're going to find yourself on the short end of the stick simply because of lack of voter turnout over the last 5, 10, 15 years. I mean, voter turnout has just been declining. So it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a few election cycles. And now keep in mind, I mean, I'm a political analyst guy, so I know you're probably asking a more general question about community organizing, et cetera. But again, I'm a pollster and analyst and a political guy, so I have to stay in my lane and talk about political issues. But from a political standpoint, I just think it's going to be going to be a long slog, back into influence. And it's just gonna, but it's not going to take magic. It's just going to take people to turn out to vote. I mean, we have in every election, Black folks are only turning out at about 15 to 25%. Mayor of New Orleans, we have a mayor election in New Orleans, and only about 30% of the Black vote turnout for mayor of New Orleans. For the mayor's election of New Orleans, right? Local election, who the mayor is directly affects your life. And we can only get about 30% of our voters to turn out.
Well, okay. So before I go to Scott, so with that said, who the hell in Louisiana is putting in the work? I'm sorry. Look, you've got former Congressman Cedric Richmond. You've got current Congressman Troy Carter. You've got Mayor Cantrell. You've got city council members. You've got Black folks in other parts of the state. Who the hell? What is the organization that's looking to do what Stacey Abrams and her group did in Georgia to say, wait a minute, we got a bunch of Black folks in Louisiana. Somebody has to organize and mobilize them. Who's actually doing it? Take party out. Do you have 1 or 2 or 3 grassroots groups that are saying this is our number one priority?
We have grassroots groups. Most of the active grassroots groups that we have are more involved in things like trying to create a second Black congressional district. But that's really a legal battle. I mean, that's been fought in the courts. I'm talking about who do you see who's really doing the work on the ground? And again, looking at what they did in Georgia to say, hey, you can't win jack 15, 18, 20%. I know Black Voters Matter is doing some stuff in Louisiana. Anybody else that's trying to create a statewide infrastructure that's not tied to party, but that's tied to a grassroots mobilization? Do you know of anybody? If it's happening, Roland, I have not seen it.
Well, right there, see, again, for me, you're the preeminent Black political scientist in the damn state, and if you don't know, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Scott?
Yeah, real quick. Are there Democrats who are going to be delegates to the convention, or just Republicans? Any of them up for re-election? Chance?
Yeah. So that, of course, there will be, all of the Democrats that are in the legislature will automatically become delegates attention. And interestingly enough, the governor in his 27 appointees that he's making, he has included a lot of Democrats. I guess he's trying to, show inclusivity. So for example, all the black mayors of all of the cities are going to be delegates. The mayor of Baton Rouge is a delegate who's a black female. The chair of the Democratic Party, even though he's not an elected official, the former elected official, but he's not elected, he is actually going to be a delegate to the convention. Yeah. So there will be a good number of black folks on the convention. Now, are they up for re-election? The problem is, so we just had our statewide elections in the state of Louisiana. We literally just had them a few months ago. So all of our state legislators are locked in for another 3.5 years.
Yep.
Because
Roland.
Elections.
Yeah, Roland. The other thing is, I have not heard our guests talk about legal strategies or where the lawyers are in all of this. Have you heard of any legal strategies or talk to, the lawyers for civil rights and economic justice or groups like that about how to slow this train down through the court system?
Well, but before Robert asked that, what you have seen, you've seen the NAACP LDF was really taking the lead on the couple of things. One, the congressional creation of the 2nd congressional district. That was that battle. You also, of course, have the battle going with the creation of the 2nd Supreme Court position as well. And so that's where a lot of the legal stuff. Now, in terms of the Constitutional Convention, I haven't heard any groups targeting that. But Robert, go ahead.
Well, okay, so right now, of course, most of our civil rights lawyers are tied up with the federal legislation trying to create a 2nd black congressional district, and that's a very hot issue right now. That's there was a filing this morning on that for the circuit. So that's what most of them are concerned with right now. Now, as far as trying to stop the Constitutional Convention, I think what you're going to see there, we haven't seen any lawsuits yet because they don't know exactly what the legislation is going to look like. It's in the House right now. It's going to the Senate. Now, once it passes the Senate and then it gets signed into law, that's when the civil rights lawyers will take a look at it. And if it looks like anything is in there that's going to be disenfranchising to black voters, then I'm sure they will take action then. So to answer your question, I do expect there to be some legal activity. I do expect some lawsuits to be filed. It's just that they're waiting to see what the final form of the legislation is going to look like, what the final organizing call of the Constitutional Convention is going to look like, and then they're going to go ahead and they're going to file their lawsuit. So I think lawsuits are coming.
All right. Dr. Robert Collins, always a pleasure. I certainly appreciate it, man. Thanks a bunch. We'll keep happening what's there. But again, it's way too many black people in Louisiana for us not to be a significant player because we're not exercising our power as a collective group.
Yeah. 1/3 of the population. 1/3 of the nation.
Sad. All right, Doc, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.